Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for day 2 of the Global Energy Forum. We absolutely and sincerely hope that you enjoyed the first day. I know I did. But we want to pick up and continue the conversation on setting the agenda for 2018, starting off this morning with the view from the United States. We are extremely fortunate to have with us the Deputy Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette, from the U.S. Department of Energy, with us this morning to discuss the changing energy landscape in the United States, the role of energy policy, and how this shapes the United States' role in the world. As we all know, the United States has undergone major changes in recent years where it comes to energy, from the dramatic rise of domestic oil and gas production from shale resources, which began just a decade ago, to policy changes facilitating the rise of liquefied natural gas exports and the lifting of the crude oil export ban, and the Trump administration's ambitions with regard to nuclear energy, which we hope will see a resurgence towards assuming its rightful role in the energy mix in the community. These developments have transformed the United States from being an energy importer to being an energy exporter, turning the domestic energy paradigm on its head and causing ripple effects in international and oil and gas markets, and I would also add enormous ripple effects in the security paradigms of this century. These changes have enabled a more externally focused U.S. energy policy, as U.S. liquefied natural gas exports reach countries from Brazil to Turkey, to Poland, and other markets around the world. Increases in U.S. oil production have upended the market, while the resiliency of shale producers has surprised many onlookers, defying previous assumptions about break-even prices. I might also mention that the Atlantic Council in 2014 introduced the 3 Cs initiative, which, if implemented, will transform the economies of Central and Eastern Europe and either reduce or maybe even eliminate the dependency on Russian energy for that part of the world for a long period of time. The next major event on the 3 Cs initiative will occur this year in Romania, where we hope to see the first evidence of an operationalized concept for the 3 Cs initiative. Our Deputy Secretary has over 3 decades of experience in both the public and the private sector and brings a wealth of knowledge and insight to U.S. energy policy. He has served as a Senior Vice President and Head of Public Policy at the U.S. Automobile Association and the Vice President of Ford Motor Company, and also worked in the U.S. Congress and served as a state energy regulator on the Louisiana Energy and Minerals Board. With that, Mr. Secretary, we welcome you and congratulate you on your critical position on the global playing field with regard to energy and our collective security responsibilities, and we welcome you to the forum.
The General is quite tall, I see. Thank you, General, for that kind introduction. I want to thank our friends from the UAE for being such kind, generous, and gracious hosts during our stay in this country. When Secretary Perry came back from his meetings here last month, he had many of the very same things to say, and he spoke very highly of the UAE delegation. His Excellency Suhail Azmaroui. I have a French name, and I have difficulty saying my own name, so I hope you will forgive me, sir, for mispronouncing yours. The Secretary was very excited about the growing energy partnership between our 2 countries. Clearly, this is a strong and it's a very close partnership that was reaffirmed through the Strategic Energy Dialogue and the MOU that was signed during his visit here. Let me also take a moment and acknowledge the Atlantic Council and its very able leadership. Its CEO and President, Fred Kemp, thank you for your time this morning, sir. I really enjoyed our conversation. and of course the interim chairman, General Jim Jones. We learned this morning we have many mutual friends from my service both in the Army and my service at USAA. Thank you for your pivotal role as the council and forum, for this forum and making this event possible. It's an honor to be here. The forum, as you know, because you're here, longtime members and partners, remains a vital venue for representatives of governments, businesses, and other organizations to discuss today's global energy landscape. In my time with you this morning, I'd like to contribute to this discussion by telling the remarkable story of how my own country is emerging as a global energy player. And it's on the way to achieving our president's goal of what he refers to as energy dominance. As part of my discussion, I'd also like to highlight the kinds of energy policies that work in the real world, putting nations on a path to energy security. So why is America suddenly emerging as an energy player beyond its borders? The reason is this. After a long, drawn-out, back-and-forth battle in my country between innovation and regulation, innovation is finally winning. Simply stated, innovation has spurred a technology revolution, leading to an astonishing renaissance in American energy. Due to a cascade of technological breakthroughs, we use energy more cleanly, more efficiently. We obtain it from a wider range of sources, and we produce it more affordably and in greater abundance than we could have ever imagined only a few short years ago. And thanks to our abundant energy production, we are approaching the point where we will have more than enough fuel for export to a growing world. This is great news not only for us, but for any country that seeks trading relationships with the United States in energy. And here's why. We reject the notion that one nation can only benefit at another nation's expense. Instead, we seek relationships that produce tangible benefits for all countries and all peoples. So when you do business with America on energy, know that we will use our energy resources to advance our shared aspirations and goals. Our aim is to grow together, to prosper together, and to move ahead together. And for us as a nation, it all starts with sharing our energy bounty with the world. Now, how did America become a nation that produces energy in such abundance? 40 years ago, when our U.S. Department of Energy was created, our energy picture was bleak. For years, America had been producing too little energy at home. Meanwhile, our leaders and policymakers were making a bad situation even worse. As supply fell and prices rose, they imposed price controls on oil and gas, which led to further declines in production and artificial shortages. And in the name of protecting the environment, they played energy favorites, subsidizing some sources while burying coal and nuclear power under an avalanche of punitive regulation. They chose to regulate rather than innovate their way out of America's energy dilemmas. But while all of that was happening in Washington, something very different was beginning to take place elsewhere in America. At the Department of Energy's national laboratories and in a number of America's state capitals, innovation began to take off. DOE's research aided the rise of hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling, leading to a natural gas renaissance. DOE's research also led to technologies that dramatically increased energy efficiency. DOE's Clean Coal Technology Program, for instance, laid the foundation for technologies that produced clean energy outcomes. And note that this was not about choosing energy winners or losers. It was about pursuing innovation by doing the research and following the science wherever it actually led. And beyond DOE, in states like Texas, when Secretary Perry was governor, the same innovative spirit produced similar outcomes. Texas did not play energy favorites. Instead, it also supported an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And so Texas became a leader, not only in oil and gas production, but in the use of wind power, producing more of it than all but 5 countries in the world. Texas and other states like it, reduced taxes, held the line on regulation, and provided both the incentive and the freedom to innovate. So what happened? Innovation rose, technology ignited. From fossil fuels to wind, to solar, to hydro, supply rose, costs fell, and efficiencies increased. And that same technology revolution that brought us an energy revolution unleashed unprecedented growth in clean energy as well. According to IEA, Dr. Birol's on the front row, thank you, sir. For the past 3 years, while America's economy grew, carbon emissions fell by 3%. The lesson is obvious. Once we innovate, we unleash the technology to both grow our economy and make our environment cleaner. Over the past year, President Trump has brought these same policies to Washington, including tax and regulatory reform. Last month, Congress passed and the President signed into law his sweeping tax reductions, the most ambitious in more than a quarter of a century. And as for regulation, the President has signed off on the building of a critical new pipeline, several new pipelines as a matter of fact, halted draconian oil and gas regulations, signed legislation that repealed a rule that hindered coal development, and is working to reinvigorate our nuclear energy sector. Today, the United States is becoming a net natural gas exporter. In the coming years, it will become a net energy exporter. So what's the lesson that we can learn from America's experience in energy policy? The most important lesson is this. For any nation that seeks to produce energy cleaner, more abundantly, more affordably, more efficiently, and in more diverse forms, it must allow innovation to work its magic so that all of these goals can be advanced together. But there is one more piece of the energy puzzle that any nation must have in order to achieve energy security. That final piece is reliability. Simply stated, there can be no energy security unless people can count on energy being delivered reliably to their homes and to their businesses. There can be no energy security without ensuring a resilient electrical grid and a reliable energy supply. Last year, DOE produced a report on America's grid and its power supplies. The study revealed how coal and nuclear plants were being retired at a disturbing rate. Why was this happening? Remember what I said about the regulatory war against both of these fuels. It's been long, it's been tough, and it's distorted the marketplace for both coal and nuclear in the United States. Excessive regulation impeded the building of nuclear reactors. It drove up the construction costs to exorbitant levels and threatened the operation of existing reactors. The war on coal thwarted construction of a cleaner, more advanced power plants, and it discouraged investment in new mining operations. Now, how might that affect a nation's grid? In America's case, coal and nuclear together account for more than half of our total grid energy. Moreover, when a crisis strikes our grid, these two fuels are some of the most reliable that we have. They're available 24/7 to keep the lights on and disaster away. So clearly, fewer coal and nuclear plants mean greater risk that the lights will go out and stay out when we face our next emergency. From the functioning of our hospitals to the maintenance of our military assets, the results could be catastrophic. So what can America do to reduce this risk? President Trump's determination to include both coal and nuclear in his all-of-the-above strategy will certainly help. And we've begun an overdue national discussion on the resiliency of our electric system with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, what we finally refer to as the FERC in the United States. Meanwhile, we will continue to support clean and advanced coal and nuclear technologies such as small modular reactors and an array of clean coal technologies that operate at much higher efficiencies than the older ones do. We will also continue to leverage our national laboratories, which remain second to none in discovery and innovation in advanced nuclear and coal technology energy research. Because our policies are working in the real world, I'm excited about America's new direction in energy. I'm excited about what this means not only for our people at home, but for our friends, our allies, and our trading partners around the world, including those of you who are here today. Most of all, I'm excited about what this means for every nation and people that wants to fulfill their dreams for a better, brighter, and more prosperous tomorrow. I'm excited about the prospects for every nation that is willing to embrace a better tomorrow by pursuing sound and sensible energy policies today. And I'm hopeful that more and more nations will choose this vital course. Thank you for the honor of being with you today.